All right, so I think I'm in a good place now to actually establish a bit more of a look. And what I'm going to do is come here to node number 6, Option S, and I have a good idea of what I want to do. Essentially what I want to do is make this feel like it's more morning. As this shot plays, I'm going to throw into loop. As this shot plays, she's sitting here doing nothing for a while. So it's going to get brighter, brighter, brighter. The sun's coming up. It's getting later, later in the morning. We're starting to approach afternoon. Then she finally gets up and walks out. So it's kind of almost like a time lapse where we're sitting there watching her for an hour or two. And the light's going to change, suggesting a passage of time until finally she starts to move. And then now we're coming to the meat of the short film here. So what I'm going to do is we're going to add some keyframes, and I'm going to move my keyframes off of all into color, so it's only doing one color node at a time. And right here when she starts to move is where I think I'm going to put one mark, so I'll add a static keyframe there. And then I think I'm going to come back earlier, and maybe this keyframe starts almost immediately. So I'll add a keyframe there. So now I've got the dissolve icon going. This is an animating dissolve. And what I want is in this node, the first thing we're going to do, I made a mistake. I'm going to delete this and delete that keyframe. In fact, I'm going to delete this keyframe as well, because the first thing I got to do is basically set up the grade so that the keyframe works properly. And what I'm going to do is a big honking luminance key. Let's turn on my luminance key here. And now I'm going to drop, 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 or lift, lift, lift my low clip until all I've got is just the highlights. Now this is going to look like a very ugly key, so I really need to soften this out. And I'm going to do a really big soften, a huge soften. And then drop this low down just until I'm looking at my scope, and just until, at about 15 IRE, maybe 18 IRE. So essentially, anything I'm about to do now will affect the entire image except the deepest, darkest parts of the image, which I'm going to leave how they are. I don't want, whatever I'm about to do, I don't want it to infect the darkest parts of the image, because that's going to give me the solid foundation for the audience to pay attention and buy into what I'm doing. All right, so now I'll Shift H to get out of this highlight mode. And now what I'm going to do is just add a lot more color in here. So, remember, the outside world is, it's post-apocalyptic. So I want to have a suggestion of that without knocking it over people's brains. They might think, oh, it's just early morning, and not realize, well, early morning in this world looks very different than early morning in our world. All right, and I'm also going to darken this down quite a bit. So we're going to pull down the highlights, pull down the gamma, but maybe lift up the shadows a touch. Maybe take a little bit of that out. There we go. All right, so this is going to establish basically the look for most of the scene. I kind of like how this looks. I'm going to Command D, turn that on and off. All right, so now we've gone with a very heavy look. I like it. All right, and this will also allow for a nice dramatic kind of time-lapse feel. So now I'll go ahead and add my mark. I'll add a keyframe. Then I'll come in here, and just as she's starting to get up, the move is done. I'll add a static keyframe. And we're still on node number 7. I'll come into my keyer menu, and on the output gain, drop it down to 0. Go to first frame, hit play. All right. Now that's not bad, but we can take this a step further. We can do other things to help this. For instance, node number 6. Let's turn off node number 6. Oh, look at that. It brightens up that corner of the room. So let's add some more keyframes, and I'll do it off of my control surface. I'll add a dynamic and then a static. And I'm not going to have them precisely match. It'll be somewhat one part of the image will brighten a bit more than another part of the image. Where else can I do this? All right, on the vignette here on node number 3. Let's have the vignette start coming off almost immediately. So I'll add a dynamic there, and it'll finish up just a little later, a static there. Now let's go to first frame and watch this down. And I never turned off node number 3, so let's go ahead and turn off node number 3. And what about node number 4? It'll change the quality of the light. So let's take node number 4, do the same basic thing. Maybe that one will start early but end early as well. So I'll add a static mark there and a dynamic mark there. And after the static mark, we'll take this and kick the key down quite a bit. Not completely, we'll leave a little bit of it. First frame, hit play. All right, so I like that. I like how that's feeling. I think that's a nice move. And now we're going to go and apply node number 7 to the rest of the scene, and let's see what happens. So what I'm going to do now is we'll come into, let's call this lesson 4, start a new stills page. And let's save off. Let's grab this still. And let's just start at the beginning. Good at place as any. Start on the wide shot. Display this node graph. Node number 7 is the one that we're going to use. And then we're going to use 16 will be what we're going to wipe against so that we can double check our work. So I will right click, wipe timeline clip on 16. And now I can I like this. I think I can add a little bit more highlights. So what I'll do is just bring up my gain a little bit. And drop down the gamma to offset it a little bit. Let's play against each other. Yeah, okay.